Welcome to the Woodturning Workshop. Hey, if you're a fan of the show, you remember last year I showed you how to do metal spinning. It was exciting. Spectacular. Okay, maybe not so great. I'm going to redeem myself just for you. Stay tuned.
The Woodturning Workshop is made possible in part by
Woodcraft since 1928, providing traditional and modern woodworking tools and supplies to generations of craftsmen. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
Easy Wood Tools, offering a full line of wood turning tools with replaceable carbide cutters.
Well, last year didn't go so good, I admit to it, but we had a couple problems that were out of my control. One was the metal they sent was way too thick, very strong metal, really technical thing on how I could have made it work, but I couldn't make it work. The other thing was I did not realize at the time this post on my lathe was too tall. It was up here. It wouldn't allow me to lower the metal spinning rest down low enough to do what I wanted. That's why I was standing on those blocks, skating around on wood and way up in the air. Now, when you start doing a turning, we're going to do our first one with aluminum. You want to use pure aluminum. Now, a lot of people tell you, hey, this is pure aluminum. It's not. The way to do a test on that is you take a pair of pliers, you bend it down. If it doesn't spring back up, that's good. Bend it back up. If it doesn't crack, that's even better. Bend it down again. If it doesn't snap, you're good to go. You probably don't want to use this piece now though. So we're going to start off with a simple little project, and here it is right here. It's a little nut dish. Really cool. Polished the outside already, haven't polished the inside. We'll show more about polishing towards the end of the show. And this is the form that we're going to use to make the nut dish. Now if you think about it, that's the exact shape of the dish. Watch this. Fits right on there. As a turner, this is what's cool about metal spinning. You turn your design onto a waste block piece of wood, and this is what you use over and over and over to recreate that shape that you like a lot. Really neat. Now, you can mount this piece of wood on a faceplate. You can put it in a chuck, but most metal spinners recommend that what you do is you take your block, you drill a hole in it, and then get this little bad boy out. You get a tap, and this tap will go in and cut threads in here that match the spindle of your lathe. Make sure you get the right size or it really won't work then. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to take our piece of pure aluminum and we're going to mount it on the lathe, and this is called a follow block. It's also been threaded to fit onto this live center, which has threads on it. And we're going to bring this up, and see a little circle there? I've already pre-centered this so I know where it's going to go. And we're going to tighten up our tailstock on there really tight, and it's a friction fit, and it's going to hold that on there while we do the spinning. Now, what do you spin the metal with? Well, you have to have a special tool, and this is really cool. It's very polished, very nicely done metal. It's high-speed steel, and it's shaped like your finger. Kind of cool, huh? Rounded here, more flat here where the fingernail will be. This is for doing more detail work, and this is for doing the broad curved shapes. You can use some other wood turning tools, and we will during this to do other parts, but this is the main tool that you're going to use. Now you know about the tool rest. It's really cool. It has posts that move, and that's nice. But one real detail you want to get into, dress for success. We're going to be using some lube, and it tends to want to spray off, so whatever you wear, be prepared to wear it every time you metal spin because you're not going to be able to get any of this stuff out. Eye safety is extremely important. I'm going to be wearing glasses just so you can hear me, but I would really recommend that you use a full face shield when you do this because something could fly off, could be really dangerous when that happens. Now, how do you get started? Well, you want your tool rest set up so that when you put the handle up here, you're slightly bent at the knees, because as I swing this handle, I want to straighten my legs and I can swing like this. And remember in that old show I was on blocks of wood because I couldn't get down low enough. Now I can. You want to work from the 6 o'clock position to the 9 o'clock position, just this little quadrant right here. You don't want to go up or out. That'd be a problem if you did that. The idea is that you use the tool rest to give you leverage, and you spin and you keep the round part of the tool in contact with the metal as you spin it and form it out. Now, we're going to turn the lathe on. That's centered fairly well. We're going close to 1,000 RPM. You don't want to go terribly fast. Now, keep in mind, that is a saw blade right there. That is sharp. It will get you. So you don't want to put your hands over the tool rest at all. You can grab onto the post, something like this, but never put your fingers out there or you'll be in a world of hurt. So this is going to happen quickly. So I'm going to put this up. Oh, wait a second. Let me remember one thing. We haven't put any lube on here. If you don't put lube on there, you're going to score the metal. It's going to really screw up. Well, we need something very sophisticated for that. We're going to use a toilet ring. It's great for using for lube. Just don't use a used one, okay? So we've got some of that melted down in here. And looks like a witch's brew right here. Ugh. This is the stuff that'll get all over your clothes and make life miserable for you or whoever does the laundry in your house. Now, you can be generous with it, but being too generous with it makes this into a dangerous splatter zone. And then you'll be cleaning up lube all across the shop, off your bandsaw, off your table saw, off the wall. You'll get it on the ceiling. Kind of fun, like being a kid again. Okay, we've got this going again. Now, we're gonna make the move. So you wanna be fluid about this. So I've got my knees bent. I'm going to bring this in contact with it, and I'm going to press into it and spin. Oops. There we go. Spin. See how that moved out? Come back. Spin again. Okay, we're pretty good. Go a little bit further. Now, there's a little step right here in the foot. We're going to lock that in as the term for it. So I'm going to turn my tool over, and I'm going to use this pointy edge, or the fingernail side of it, to push in and make that. And this is kind of a interesting movement because I'm going to turn the lathe off really quickly here because I want to raise the tool rest up to get a little bit better angle for it. The closer the tool rest is, the more leverage you have and the easier it is to make the metal move. So I'm going to push in this way and raise up at the same time to make that angle. And this is one of the trickier parts. Once you get this down, everything's fine. Now, how do I know where the foot starts? My follow block right here is the exact diameter of the foot. So here, let's go. Give this a shot. I'm going to bring this in and push up and over. Do it one more time. Up and over. And you can see now we've got the foot shape. I'm going to roll this back over and now come back in and follow this and come out to the edge. Come out again. And see I'm going slower, how much smoother that is. Okay, you don't want to go off the edge of the metal either. Oh, get my finger back, because that will score the tool. And that looks pretty good. One more pass. We'll be ready to clean up the edge on this. Nice and slow. There we go. Now, you get to use wood turning tools because we have to clean up the edge on here. It's really, really ragged. So we're going to move the tool rest over and get it up a little bit right on center because I'm going to use a scraper to take off this edge. That's nasty. And remember I was talking about wearing a face shield, and I'm not right now? Well, I am going to put a face shield on because this is one of the most dangerous parts of metal spinning. You're going to get shards of metal coming off like this, and that will cut you. That will hurt, and it's very sharp. So you come down here, you want to have your talk right now like this. You come down here, you're going to put your tool trailing, just like a scraping cut. Okay? You don't want to bring it up here. It will catch. It'll jerk on you. And I'm using a carbide tip scraper, which is nice and simple here. So we're going to turn this on, and this will take a little bit of time. We're just going to feed it in. See, it's a little jagged right now, but it's starting to bring metal off, okay? Now you know where you're getting to round when all of a sudden you start getting long slivers of metal off of it. Now, if you notice, the rim is getting fatter and fatter and fatter, right? Well, we'll take care of that in a second here with a different tool. And I'm going to get rid of a little bit of that right now. We're going to switch tools. And this is high-speed steel. Looks a little bit like a parting tool, but it's actually a diamond point scraper. Pretty neat, huh? So what you do with this is we're going to take off the little flap of metal that's on either side that's been forming. I'll stop this and show you real quick. See how fat that is? We haven't gone all the way down yet. See, we've got overhang now. That's being spread out. So watch this. We'll bring it down at an angle. I'm going to come in at an angle, and we'll scrape that off. So that's gone now. I'll come in here and scrape off this side. Now I can go back to my other scraper and continue to work the edge down. And you don't want to go down so far that you start cutting your block, because you want to keep that block the shape it is so you can keep using it over and over and over. So you just want to get really close to the wood. Now you can see the metal shards we're getting. And if it hooks up on there like that, you take it, turn it upside down, and just drag it over one of those holes, and it pulls the metal off. Because once that metal sticks on there, you can't cut anymore. There we go. Pull it off of there. We'll go back to our point tool here. And we'll clean this up. Now, once we have this edge rounded the way we want it, we're going to take it later and we're going to polish it all up. But I'm not going to just leave you with a nut dish as a project today. I got a little something special for you. But now it's time for your turn. A lot of new turners ask me, what is a bevel and how do you use it? Well, this is one of my biggest tools, and you can barely see the bevel on here. So if you think this is a big tool, say hello to my little friend. Here you go, Brian. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this thing on the silver part is the bevel. This is where it touches the grinder when you sharpen it. But a lot of new turners think you have to touch the entire bevel to the wood while you're turning. That will only happen one time when you're turning, when your piece gets to be 8 inches in diameter, matches the size of your grinder. What you actually do, when you ride the bevel, it's a term we use a lot, you're touching the tip. The heel usually is not touching unless this is larger than 8 inches in diameter. And to make the cut, you actually have to tip it up, and the tip starts going into the wood a little bit. You're just lightly touching it. The bevel you're riding is just the small portion right here in front of the tip. Same thing goes for when you do the edges. You're just riding the tip. Because think about it, if you try to cut something with a knife and you don't tip it into the wood, it won't cut. So you have to take your bevel and then you roll it, and it starts cutting, and when it just starts cutting is when you're making your cut, and you ride the bevel. So I hope that clears up a little bit about what the bevel is and how you use it. Like I said, I'm not going to leave you with just a nut dish. We're going to make this elegant, lidded, metal spun dish. But who better to show us than the man who came up with the design, Tom Farrell.
Hi, Tim.
Oh, thank you for coming to our workshop all the way from Texas, Meadow, Texas.
Meadow, Texas, close to Lubbock.
Yeah. Now, how in the world did you get started metal spinning?
As a teenager, my father was teaching me to turn wood, and I was really curious, and I asked him, how do they make the spinner covers for propellers on airplanes, and how do they make rocket nose cones? And he said, metal spinning. Well, I was hooked at that point, so I've been working towards learning how to spin metal since then, and I took a seminar in the late 80s from Rudy Solnick, who got me started spinning metal. And it's been great. I really enjoy it.
Well, and you do some very elegant, very beautiful work. And this is a step up from a beginner project, right? But the steps that I was showing in the little nut dish are the same basic steps you use on this, right?
Basically, this is 2 nut dishes. One of them is going to have a rim to hold the lid, and the other is going to have just a flat edge to fit in the steps that will turn in the top of the base.
Okay.
But it's just a larger version of what you did.
Okay, but it's beautiful too. Well, where do you start and what do you want to show us?
Okay, you start the same way that you did with your dish by centering the metal up between the follow block and the form.
Okay.
Put it in there. Make sure it's really tight, because you don't want this thing to come loose on you. And if it starts to come loose, of course, we'll stop and recenter and tighten up.
Right.
But you also, lubrication is essential. You're going to want to adjust your tool rest, because this geometry is really important. You kind of want to start low. And swing out like that.
Okay.
And I could lower that rest just a little bit, because the angle is important. You need to use your body to provide the weight and the force for this tool. Because if you try to spin metal out like this, you will not be successful.
Right.
It just won't work that way.
And yesterday when we were playing, I proved that a couple times. Okay, I got my glasses
Put on my safety glasses here.
And again, you don't want anybody, if they're a visitor in a shop, stand right here.
No, this is the danger zone, this plane right here. Also, if you get too much lubrication on, be aware that you're going to have tiny little black dots of lubrication. You could probably see the little black dots of stuff on my turning smock.
Yeah.
You know, use an old shirt.
And I don't know if you can hear it right now, but we got a heck of a thunderstorm brewing outside, so hopefully we'll keep power throughout this whole process. Okay, well, let's get going on.
Well, let's see here. And we're going to turn the speed a little higher. I'm going to guess that to be 1,000 or 1,100 RPM.
Okay.
Move a little lubrication up. Okay.
You make that look so smooth when you do that. And you're working from this point outward. You're not coming back at all, right?
Yes, you should work from the base out and finish this in segments. What I'll do is I'll spin up to about the first step and lock that in.
Okay.
And that way the metal will be locked between two steps and it won't flow forward or backward.
Right. Okay. Let's see the locking part there, or where you're going.
I need one more pass here.
Okay. So I'm starting to see the form appear underneath as you're doing this.
You can see that we're down to the wood right here where it kind of smooths up.
Right.
And I've not laid it all the way down to the wood. What I want to do is lock in the base first. And once we lock in the base, there's practically no way this thing can get off of the load.
Gotcha. And go ahead and do it. But locking in is basically forming it to the foot. Go ahead, like we did on the nut dish, so you wind up with this little rim here.
Yeah, I'm going to readjust just a little bit, turn the machine off.
Yeah, because again, it's a saw blade, right?
Yeah. Get a little closer here where I've got a little bit better leverage.
And that's one thing to remember too when you're doing metal spinning. You move this a lot because you're going from different diameters and using different sides of the tool, so you have to adjust. Okay.
Ready?
Mm-hmm. So now this is the locking in the foot. Boy, it's nice and shiny. That's really nice.
We have a fairly well-formed foot. It's not real sharp, but looks pretty good. You can see here the edge of the next step.
Okay.
Where we'll form in the next step in the form. If you look at the base, there's the step we just put in. Here's the next step that where we'll lock the metal on.
Okay.
And we'll spin this out, and we'll pretty much finish spin everything from here to here, and not go back to that, and then spin from there out.
Okay. It's in a nice OG shape right there. Okay. This is really neat because this form will last you for hundreds of pieces.
Hundreds. Yeah. And you can always come back and freshen it up a little bit because the corners will mush down a little bit.
Right. Okay. And while you're turning, it's hard maple that you've got on there, which is a really good wood for that. Some people use corian, you said. And professional metal spinners will also sometimes use steel and other really resilient metals to make their forms. And again, you can see how the edge is curving while you go out, but you're coming almost to the edge to make sure it's still going that way, right?
We really don't want to get into a situation where we have a big hat brim where it turns up, because that's very difficult to recover from.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that. Have you ever flown anything off the lathe before?
Every now and then, but I try to really avoid that.
Right. Nothing as spectacular as what I did, huh?
No, I haven't seen that episode, so...
Well, we won't repeat it today.
Let me see if I can lock that in right there.
Okay, so you're doing that step now, okay.
We've made that step, and I'll just come back and take a fine pass here.
So the slower you move the tool at this point, the smoother you make the metal.
Correct.
And you are flowing the metal. You're literally stretching the metal out as you make this.
We are forming the metal from the sheet form down onto the wooden form.
Yeah.
We're actually reshaping the metal using pressure.
Okay.
The difference being, metal turning is where you're actually going to remove metal. Metal spinning is just reforming the sheet.
Gotcha. Okay. And the next step now?
The next step, we'll work on the upper half of it.
Okay.
We'll spin this down to where we can see our top 2 steps.
So you're now ready to part this off, and you're going to use your point tool, right?
Correct.
And the storm is still raging, but we still have electricity. We also have a visitor because Hagen doesn't like storms, so he'd rather be in here with us right now. Well, let me get my eyes on, and what are you going to do here?
I'm going to part this excess metal off, and I'm going to do it as a ring because I have inspected the ring and there's no cracks in it. So when it parts away from the main body, it should part away as a ring.
Okay.
We hope.
You hope. Well, that's kind of spectacular. Cool. So the next step is polishing this, clean this thing up after you do that edge,
Correct. We can clean up the edge and then polish it.
Cool.
We can take a pair of pliers and break this off and get it out of the way so it's not a hazard.
Okay. So this is more than passing the metal test, right?
Yeah. You see, the stuff is fairly malleable.
Okay. Take that out of the way. It's warm, too.
Yes.
Okay, Tom, now you've been working for a few minutes on this. You're polishing it up, and you also off-camera turned the lid, which is just a slightly smaller version for the top.
Correct.
And that fits inside the rim, and you're using a vacuum chuck right here.
Hey, wait.
Some people just never let go. Come on, I'm not gonna, I won't touch it. Okay, well, what have you done to get to this part of the shine on here, the finish?
Okay, it's a progressive system, just like wood turning. You can start with sandpaper if your finish is not very smooth.
Right, something like this?
Well, you start with a new piece of metal in that case.
Oh, so I kind of failed on that one, huh? That's why I have you here?
That's why you did one that looks just like this.
Uh-huh.
It was because learning experience.
Yes, it is. Now I know what not to do on that.
Okay, and we'll go through a progression of finer and finer abrasives, winding up with Tripoli compound.
Okay.
You just put the Tripoli compound directly on the metal and polish it out with paper, or I use old T-shirts and stuff like that.
Right.
And for a final polish, you'll go to your automotive store or some place that handles cream metal polish and get a polish for aluminum, probably out of the automotive section.
Right, and you don't want to use like the wood turning polishes, which are for plastics, because they have probably a little bit more abrasive in it, right?
Probably has some abrasive in there. It probably will polish, but you get it down as fine as you can get all the residue off of it, and then go for the cream polish.
Okay, and with a vacuum chuck, you can reverse this and then work on the inside too. And with the sandpaper and stuff, you've taken off any sharp edges on the lid, right? Okay.
And something else we didn't cover in great detail, we need to make sure that when you make your form, that it's ever expanding.
Oh, good point, because you don't want to close it in.
Because if part of it closes in, you've locked your metal on the wood.
Now, if you're building a lamp or something like you told me before, and you want weight in the bottom, you leave the wood inside. Now, speaking of wood, this is a wood turning project, and on this finished one you did here, we have a foot and we have a finial, and we got some examples over here. It's really simple turning. This is two pieces. This is a little flat piece, and then you put a stem in it. You drilled a hole, and this is, let's see, let me get the base one to show. This actually sucks up right into here, and it's form fit, and you use some epoxy to put that on there, correct? That's really, really cool. And you also, let's see, we can turn that off now. It stops. Give me a break, you guys. You are taking this even further, and what I love is you're incorporating wood with the metal, right?
Yes, yes. It's going to be the emphasis of my metal spinning for a while, is combining wood and metal.
And this is brass?
This is brass.
Which is a whole nother animal, a whole nother show to get into as far as technique and all that, annealing and things we don't want to touch on right now. Well, this is fantastic, and I do want to thank you so much for coming all the way from Texas
You're welcome.
to help us out here in Oklahoma. And until the next time on the Wood Turning Workshop, keep turning.
And keep spinning.
Next time on the Wood Turning Workshop.
Well, we're using granadille for the top and the bottom of the stamp dispenser. It does the same threads per inch on every cut. It never changes. And now you can start to see the threads forming. As you can see, I'm just making a little onion dome right now to get some nice little cuts. Honey, how many of these are going to need? That good? No? No? Oh boy.
For more information about the Wood Turning Workshop, visit our website at rsupublictv.org.
I'm coming back, Hagen. Jeez. Holy cow. Here you go. Is that what you wanted? Yeah. All right.
The Wood Turning Workshop is made possible in part by
Woodcraft, since 1928, providing traditional and modern woodworking tools and supplies to generations of craftsmen. Woodcraft, helping you make wood work.
Easy Wood Tools, offering a full line of wood turning tools with replaceable carbide cutters. To order a DVD of this or any other episode, call 1-800-823-7210 or visit rsupublictv.org.
Hey, remember last year when we did a show on metal spinning? But anyway, once you've done this, oh well, this week I'm going to redeem myself. Thank you for coming to our workshop all the way from Texas. And you're working from this point outward. You're not coming back at all, right?
Yes, you should work from the base
And
out.
you're using a vacuum truck right here.
Hey, wait.
Some people just never let go. Come on.